What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you week 8 of season 2 of the APA Academy, and this week we are up against Vepsis and his Helsinki Hydreigons. And before I get into the team, just a reminder that if you guys like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button as it helps us out a ton, and let's do more cool stuff for you guys. And also a reminder to check out Vepsis' channel that will be linked in the description below. Now, actually, before I get into anything, I want to give a little bit of a backstory on this game. So going into this week, I had two 13-and-a-half-hour days. Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, it was just kind of like two horrendous days back to back where I had to be at the school by 7:30 and I was not able to come home until 9 p.m. that night. So just a really, really awful front part of the week. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was going to be home for my sister's wedding. So obviously there was going to be a ton of errands running around, all that stuff. So I knew that I wouldn't have a ton of time to play. In fact, I would either have to play on Wednesday or we would have to get an extension. And given that my original opponent, Lapis, whatever, I'm going to say Lapis, she and I were... Okay, so she is Aussie, and so obviously the scheduling conflicts would mean that we'd have to play a whole week late, which would mean that we would have to play and then immediately try to get the video out, which would probably end up being late, and yeah, just basically would have led to an entire crap situation. So I explained all this to Lapis. I messaged her and was like, hey, here's the situation. Is there any way that you can play on Wednesday? And she was like, yeah, sure, definitely. She was able to do that. So we scheduled, and I also made certain to be like, hey, is your team going to change at all? Nope. Okay, perfect. So when I had time over that weekend, because I was also a busy weekend, I went ahead and built the team and had it all set up for the game. Fast forward to Sunday night, I get informed by the mods of the league that not only am I no longer playing Lapis, as that was somebody that I had already scheduled with. I had already made sure that the team was the exact same. Not only would I not be playing her, but I would have to be playing a completely new opponent, and they would get 4 free agencies or free agent transactions for their team. So I'm just like, wait, hold up. I already scheduled with my opponent, and I made sure that they weren't going to change the team. Like, what's going on? This is really, really last minute. But either way, Vepsis, awesome guy. Highly encourage you guys to check him out. Very cool, upstanding dude who is super understanding about the whole thing and was great with scheduling. We were able to schedule for Wednesday as well, but because of the time constraint I was under, I'm using the exact same team that I originally had for the first opponent without all of the transactions that Vepsis was able to put under. So like, I think it was something... I just have Vepsis' full roster. It was Mega Gengar, Landorus T, Latios, Kartana, Starmie, Volcarona, Xurkitree, Bronzong, Pangoro, Granbull, Stunfisk, and Type Null. I forget what the original bottom ones were, but they were ones that I definitely put in some prep towards, and I had absolutely zero prep towards, I think, the Granbull, Stunfisk, and the Type Null in particular. Which actually, given my team, I looked at it and I was like, okay, these guys could actually be kind of annoying and do warrant a little bit of prep. So either way, I just had to go with whatever team I originally had because of the time constraints. I was like, whatever, screw it, let's just go ahead and do it. But luckily, the only new mon he brought was the Stunfisk, but the Pangoro does, I believe, not have the Z. It does or doesn't have the Z. I mean, it was like one of the last second changes, but either way, his team looks absolutely terrifying. The Mega Gengar, the Landorus are just stupidly strong threats. Same with the Pangoro and the Latios. And the team I'm bringing is a Darkinium Z Persian, I think this is a Trick Room Dialga, a Trick Room Abusing Mawile with Stealth Rock, a Defensive Rotom, a Scarf Gengar, and a Dragon Dance Restock Zygarde to hopefully try to set up and win, because looking at his team, he has a couple mons that can potentially be very solid setup bait for my Zygarde. Just be able to like Dragon Dance up on things like the Stunfisk, the Pangoro if it doesn't have Ice Punch, or even if it does have Ice Punch, if it's locked in to something else, or it's not choice banded, then Zygarde's able to actually set up on Ice Punch, which is actually pretty nuts, or the Landorus once its Z move has been blown. So yeah, looking at his team, I'm just going to end up leading off with my Persian, as I felt it had a beneficial matchup against everything not named Xurkitree or Latios, so I just went ahead and did that, thinking that he would try to get his rocks up right off the bat. As I'm sure you saw in the team preview, he is, unfortunately for me, going to end up leading with one of the two Mons. Well, actually, I guess technically three because Mega Gengar, but I guess Mega Gengar could be potentially scared out by a Scarf. But either way, one of the two Mons that I did not want to see, like if I saw a Stunfisk, Pangoro, or Landorus, I would have been fine. But considering Xurkitree is out and that my Persian could potentially go down to a Scarf Thunderbolt right off the bat, I'm going to hard switch right into my Dialga to take whatever hit that this thing wants to go through. And wow, I can't even talk. This is going great. But I do switch out first, revealing that he is not Scarfed, so that is good to know, as he does pull the switch into his Landorus. Like, of all Mons, Landorus was the last Mon I thought he'd try to switch in on my Persian, just because like a knockoff or a foul play would do a ton of damage, and Landorus is his only answer to Zygarde, period. But considering I don't want my Dialga to take a bunch of damage early on, I am just going to pull the switch into my Rotom, as he does go for the U-turn. That does, I believe that's defensive damage, or it was either defensive or max offensive. I know that that's a very, very wide spread. So yeah, Styx, it's either invested or not invested. Great commentary right there. But it was one or the other, as he goes back into his Xurkitree, and I'm like, okay, he's going to go for the Thunderbolt or the Volt Switch right here. I'm going to pivot through my Zygarde, as he actually ends up going right for the Light Screen. And I was like, okay, dual screens. He's going to set up his Reflect now. I am going to go right back into my Dialga, as if he is going for the HPS, I kind of wanted to scout that out as well, just to see if that was an option that he had, because maybe I can even set up on the Xurkitree later, even though it does have Reflect. Getting that speed can be super nice, and then just spamming Thousand Arrows against his team will be really clutch. As he goes into his Landorus, gets me once again, and I'm like, whatever. Dialga can take a hit. I'm not seeing anything that really is forcing my Persian to heal anything else besides Dialga, so I can go ahead and take a big hit right now, go for the Dragon Tail, get some momentum on my side, as I unfortunately miss. Now that is going to really suck later in the game, as now I don't want my Dialga to go down. I could have gotten some initiative potentially off of that, maybe forced him into like his Xurkitree, his Pangoro, his Landorus, just something that I would have been able to force him into to where I could get momentum. But nope, unfortunately, because of the missed Dragon Tail, he is able to get momentum, go into his Gengar, and now I am going to unfortunately have to let my Rotom take a gigantic hit as well. So this is like, what, turn 7, turn 8, and I already had to take a huge hit on my Dialga. I'm going to go for the Volt Switch on my Rotom, because nothing on my team wants to take a hit from Mega Gengar. I know Rotom is the one thing that can take a hit, and I can potentially Pain Split up against like the Pangoro or the Stunfisk should it come down to it. As he goes for the Shadow Ball, doesn't knock me out. I knew that it wouldn't. My Rotom did 100% live any hit from the Gengar from there, barring a crit. I believe an Energy Ball actually would have knocked me out, but I mean, I didn't think that he would have Energy Ball given my team. And now I'm going to go into Mawile, and I'm going to make a play. He is way too far out front for me not to try to make a play. Like, I have to get back into this game somehow. I'm going to predict that he's going to be scared of the potential Sucker Punch, and so I'm going to go with my Mawile. I'm going to go straight for the Stealth Rock, get them up, because Vepsis is pulling a ton of switches. Like, he is pulling an absolute crap load of switches, and so getting rocks up will actually be huge, because then, okay, he can pull as many doubles as he wants from here on out, but I am going to get damage off. He goes into his Xurkitree and goes for the Reflect. I was like, whatever, I'll get some damage off on the Xurkitree, just kind of scout out its set, see what it is, maybe put it in range of like a Shadow Ball from Gengar, because my Gengar is looking really good to potentially win this game, as he does go for the Play Rough, and now I'm going to go for the Knockoff as he goes to the Volt Switch. That reveals that that is going to be a relatively bulky Xurkitree, as I am going to go for the Knockoff, just get rid of its Light Clay. I mean, I already have to deal with Reflect for 8 turns. He can get Light Screen up if he wants to, but I do get a crit on the Stunfisk, which Stunfisk was one of the Mons that he wasn't supposed to have, so I mean, I consider that a little justice, but either way, I don't bother calcing. I just go for the Knockoff, thinking, whatever, it can probably KO from that range, but it doesn't. I just wasn't thinking at that point, as he is able to get the discharge damage off. And really, ultimately, like, the damage that I would have gotten from 2 play roughs after the initial knockoff would have been enough to knock him out. So, I mean, he still got the same amount of hits off on my Mawile just because of my stupidity at that range, but he is going to be able to go into his Landorus at this point. Mawile is low, so now my Dialga, my Mawile, and my Rotom are all low. Landorus comes in, and it's going to be able to scare something out. Like, it's scaring my Mawile out. I'm going to go straight into my Persian, let that take a hit, just kind of be a pivot, because I am thinking that my Zygarde needs to be at full as long as possible to deal with this Landorus. As now, with my Persian in, I'm going to go straight for the parting shot, as I was like, okay, he's not going to want Landorus to take a hit because it's his only Zygarde check. Well, turns out he was actually completely ready to let Landorus be put in a range where it can't take a plus 1,000 arrows. So, I mean, like, I really do question that a little bit. Like, once I get up to +1 against the remainder of his team, I kind of sort of just win. So I'm not quite sure what the logic was behind that, but I mean, it works out for him. And I'm one that believes even if you don't agree with the play, if it works out, then you know what? It works out. So yeah, I mean, ooh, that one stings a little bit because, I mean, getting the damage off on Landorus to get up to +1 would have won me the game, basically, but whatever, worked out for him, and so he's going to go into his Latios. I'm going to go into my Persian, thinking, okay, he's going to be Scarf Latios. If he stays in, I know that he's Scarf, because he's not going to want Latios to take a huge hit from Persian, as Vepsis continues to just disrespect the absolute crap out of Persian and stays in to Calm Mind up. Now, Foul Play would have been a 2-hit KO. If he's not Colbur, Foul Play would have been a 2-hit KO, but I am just like, whatever, he's +1. I just had to revenge with my Persian. Gonna go for the Sucker Punch. It does good damage, but luckily, he's eject button. I'm curious what that was for. I forgot to ask him, but he is going to switch out, so that +1 Latios is getting absolutely nothing. As, I mean, it would have gotten knocked out. Sorry, I bumped the table right there, but it would have gotten knocked out if not for the Reflect. But that Reflect is coming through, and now with the Pangoro in, I am going to go straight into my Zygarde, and thinking that Ice Punch is the last move he's going to click in that situation. He wants to knock out my Mawile because Mawile is a huge threat against him. And my defensive Zygarde will be able to come in, take that Earthquake, reveals to be 100% Jolly Banded damage. And so this is a perfect opportunity to get up to +1 and start to really just kind of wreck a huge hole in his team. Now he goes into Landorus as I do go for the Dragon Dance, and this is where that Dragon Tail damage from earlier that I should have gotten had I not missed comes into play, because as you will see, I'm at neutral. Once I got up to +1, he came in and intimidated me, so now I'm back at neutral. But with this 1,000 arrows damage, you will see that that's not quite a 2-hit KO, as he will go for the Swords Dance with his Landorus on this turn and be able to live another 1,000 arrows and go for a Z move, which would KO my Zygarde at this range. So I will have to sack something off. Had I gotten that Dragon Tail damage on him earlier, he guaranteed would not be able to take the second 1,000 arrows, so he would be forced to go straight for the Z move, which would do about 50% to my Zygarde, give me Papa Form, and then I'd still be a +1 Zygarde against the rest of his team at full health with my Mawile sack. But because I missed that Dragon Tail, he was able to Swords Dance up, scare out my Zygarde, and now I am forced to sack off my Mawile. Because, I mean, Mawile's Sucker Punch still would have been super nice late game for, like, the Gengar, maybe even just, like, yeah, just extra damage against the Gengar, the Latios, the Xurkitree. Like, even though Xurkitree could have potentially gotten up a Reflect, still, Sucker Punch would have been super, super nice to have, but as it stands, I'm forced to sack off my Mawile, because I did not get that Dragon Tail damage off earlier, and 2,000 arrows wouldn't have killed. I'm going to go into my Gengar, and I was trying to think of what move to lock myself into. I figured that Icy Wind would put me in the best position no matter what he went into, as he does sack off his Latios. That's fine. Latios really wasn't a big threat for me, especially because it was at such a low range of health. But this does give him the opportunity to go into his Mega Gengar, and I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I can hit him with Icy Wind and Revenge Kill with Persian, but I frickin' miss Icy Wind as well. So, I mean, like, yes, the crit against Stunfisk was unfortunate, but like I said, it didn't change the amount of hits my Mawile would have taken just because I didn't bother calculating with knockoff. Whereas the Dragon Tail meant that I had to sack off my Mawile, whereas not getting a big hit on Landorus, and it is forcing me, with the Icy Wind miss, to take a gigantic hit from his Gengar, to where now, like, I mean, I would have been able to just Revenge Kill with my Persian, go for a Foul Play, do gigantic damage to something, and be in a much better spot. But nope, because I missed the Icy Wind, I'm forced to go into Zygarde, something that can actually take a hit from the Gengar, and luckily I live. If I hadn't lived, I would have just gotten beat from there. Like, no questions asked, it would have just been a 4-0 because Gengar would have swept. But luckily my Zygarde lives, but at the same time, I couldn't have Dragon Danced up because I knew that Icy Wind obviously was a very obvious option that Gengar would have, and just... yeah, this is all kinds of unfortunate, but that being said, I'm still actually in a spot where I can potentially pull this back, because all I need is to get a little bit more damage off on the Pangoro, and my Zygarde can potentially win the game. Now, you might be wondering, why am I saving Zygarde? Because at this point, I determined that Zygarde is going to be my way to win. Zygarde getting up to like +1, +2, and 1,000 arrowsing my way through his team, yes, that is totally a word, will be my way to win this game. I'm going to sack off my Dialga to the Ice Punch. I'm like, okay, yeah, Ice Punch, that's obvious. As I'm going to go straight into my Persian, and considering I'm already in Papa form, this is a wonderful opportunity to bring my Zygarde back up, just because, I mean, I can keep my father form and get the most amount of health, but I'm like, no, let's get rid of this Pangoro's, get rid of the Pangoro's Choice Band, because once I get rid of the Choice Band, Zygarde is in a much better spot to sweep, as he goes into Xurkitree, and Knockoff into Foul Play is going to take that thing out. So now with the Xurkitree gone, Persian is actually looking really, really good to be able to win this game as well. So he goes back into his Pangoro. I mean, that's fine with me. At this point, I am just going to fire off my Z Parting Shot, because I'm like, yeah, let's get my Zygarde back up to full health, because once I can get Zygarde back up to full, I will be in an amazing spot. And not only will this put the Pangoro at -1, it will bring back up my Zygarde, and my Persian will still be able to switch back in, eventually knock off the Choice Band, and win the game. So yeah, like, despite the insane hacks that has gone against me, like the insanely crucial hacks, I might be able to pull this back because of Persian and Zygarde being so ridiculously fat. So Zygarde is going to heal back up to full, as Ice Punch is going to do a buttload, but that still only does like 120 some damage, like a 4 times Choice Band attack, even from -1, like a Iron Fist 4 times Choice Band attack is still doing just that much damage. But now I'm gonna pull the switch back into my Persian, as I'm like, okay, I don't want Zygarde to take another hit. I'll just let Persian take this, because I know at -1 Pangoro isn't doing a whole lot. Persian can come in, and I just need to get a little bit more damage off on this Pangoro. So knowing that I can take easily another Ice Punch, I'm going to go for the Foul Play, just get a little damage. Yes, I know it's 4 times resisted, but that'll still do a decent chunk because of Pangoro's high physical attack and stab from Persian. He goes into his Landorus, and Landorus dies, which means that I'm actually going to be able to pull this all the way back. Like, I have the right amount of HP. Going for a Parting Shot, getting this Pangoro to -1, my Zygarde will be able to come in, take the Ice Punch very easily. I'll be able to rest back up, get up to a good amount of HP to where I can easily take another Ice Punch from the Pangoro, and at this point, because he's -1, all I need to do is knock off his Choice Band with my Persian, and I will be able to win the game. Like, Zygarde will be able to chew, because Pangoro at -1 without a Choice Band will not be a 3-hit KO against my Zygarde. Like, that's how absurdly bulky Zygarde is. And yeah, so this is actually incredible. Like, I'm so ridiculously pumped that I'm going to be able to pull this back, because Zygarde's in, it's bulky, all I have to do is pull the switch back into my Persian, and I guaranteed win. Like, Persian guaranteed is able to take an Ice Punch into another Ice Punch as I knock off, so not only will I be able to get the knockoff, I'll also be able to get a Foul Play as well, and I will end up winning the game. So this is insanely awesome. Oh. Well.
Well, I don't know if he's coming back, guys. See you next time, I guess.